All right, welcome back. This is the fifth episode of the Solo Moviegoers Club. This is an episode where me, Sean, and my daughter Kaya see the same movie alone within 24 hours of each other. We can't talk to anybody else about the movie. We can't read any reviews of the movie. And then we come here and we talk about it. However, this is a special episode for a number of reasons. One, this is the first movie that we both watched virtually. So courtesy of Hulu, who is releasing this movie, they sent us a virtual screener. We each watched this in our own environments. Mine happened to be at a hotel, which is where I'm recording this podcast. Kaya, I'm assuming, watched it at home.
Yeah.
And this is also special because we have two special guests who will be joining us later. Brandon Espy, the writer-director of the movie, and Carl Reid, a writer-producer of the movie. And this is even more special because Kaya and I both worked on this movie. So I was one of the producers of the movie, and Kaya worked as a production assistant on the movie, and she has worked on projects with me before, but this is the first one where she left her life behind for 2 months and came to set into New Jersey, and we worked day in, day out together with a whole bunch of other super cool people to help make this movie and bring Brandon and Carl's vision to life. So we might be a bit biased, and this might be a kind of a different conversation for us because it might veer more into our experiences making it and our experiences of watching something that we made together than just the viewing experience. Without any further ado, let's launch into this thing. So Kaya, what was your solo movie going experience like, first and foremost?
I mean, it was pretty simple. I just sat on my couch and I watched it. It was nice. Quick movie. Fun.
What was your coffee situation?
It was late at night, so I didn't have a coffee this time. This was the first
interesting.
time. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was drinking a hot coffee from a hotel breakfast area.
Ew.
And I watched this partially like first thing in the morning awake in my room, partially while on an elliptical, and partially while in the hotel breakfast area, restaurant, I guess you would call it.
Casual.
Yeah, casual. And I watched it on my iPad. So this is a very, very unique viewing. Normally we're in theaters, but and I've seen also, I should caveat, I probably, if this was my first time truly viewing the movie, I probably wouldn't have watched it that way. But that's also a reality of how people watch streaming movies sometimes. They watch them where they are and how they can. I have seen the final...
I watched it on a greasy screen, a greasy computer screen, so...
You could fix that.
Ideally, it wouldn't have been that.
They make products to wipe the grease off of computer screens.
I know.
But I'd seen the movie before. I've seen the final cut. I hadn't seen the final version of it with titles and credits and sound mix and the final effects. So it was an interesting experience. So you guys know what we're talking about. The movie is Mr. Crocket. Probably should have said that earlier. But yeah, the movie's called Mr. Crocket. It, from where we're sitting right now, it comes out on Hulu and Disney Plus worldwide tomorrow, October 11th. Although you'll probably be listening to this after that. You can just go to Hulu. You can go to Disney Plus if you're outside of the U.S. and you can watch the movie. The movie is about a demonic former children's show host who is snatching kids through TVs when he believes that they are being ignored by their parents or mistreated by their parents. He essentially spots that. He can look from the other side and see through the TV screens which kids need, in his mind, his help. So this lending library pops up in the kids' yards. It has a VHS tape in it. The movie takes place in the 90s in a fictional town called Shuri Bottom. And this lending library will pop up in their yard. The tape will be there. The kid will watch the tape. The kid will get addicted to watching the tape. Mr. Crocket, the titular children's TV show host, will become the child's best friend. The parents will then either continue to ignore the kid or get mad at the kid for watching. And at some point, when it hits a breaking point, Mr. Crocket reaches through the TV screen, kills the parents in most cases, and takes the kids down to his hell-like landscape where he is producing this children's show for this very small audience of captive children forever. So the story follows a recently widowed mother, Summer, whose son gets taken by Mr. Crocket, and obviously none of the authorities believe that this bad guy reached through the TV and took her kid. They think she's crazy. So without any help from the authorities, she has to piece together what happened and go into Crockett's hellish TV show, get her kid back, and also save other children. That's pretty close to a 2-minute summary, right?
That
We
was
should say
great.
our last episode, we did like a 30-minute summary, actually 27-minute summary of the movie,
Yeah.
and that can never happen again. It's never limiting ourselves to 2 minutes. So with that, I've been rambling. Kaya, what did you think of the movie?
Well, overall, it was really fun to watch it because I don't know, it's so different when you're there. I was able to see kind of the behind the scenes of everything that went down, like the puppeteers, how everything worked, but it's super magical when it's like put in front of you, all the effects are there, and it's like done. So it was really exciting for me.
How different did the movie look and feel than you thought it would, having been there?
To be honest, I thought it looked the way that I remembered it to look, except for the effects, of course. And like as a PA, sometimes I was outside of the house that they were filming in, so all I could really do was hear like the screaming or hear like the commotion going on. So like to actually see certain scenes that I wasn't able to be a part of, or like we had a closed set for Mr. Crocket, and I was behind and I was the one playing the music, and like to see like what he actually did was kind of crazy.
Yeah, and so I guess for people, like, this is mostly like a movie buff audience who kind of knows things, but I feel like nobody, even like before I started making movies and I just loved movies, I always saw the credits of movies and saw like Best Boy Grip and wondered, what is that? What is that position?
Yeah.
So for people who don't know what a production assistant or a PA does, what did you do on this movie?
Pretty much I did a lot of transportation with the cast, helping out with like different equipment, carrying it around. I was the PA that got to do all the music, so that was fun. I got to play all the songs in the background. Lots
And just to
of
clarify that, what
singing.
you're talking about when you say when you played the music. So a movie has a score and a movie has a soundtrack. Those are put on in post production when the movie's being edited. But Kaya was playing music on set to set the mood, or music that would take place in a scene that wouldn't be separate from the edit. So for instance, Mr. Crocket, the TV show host, he was dancing when he was on his set, and Kaya would hit play when he would be doing these dance sequences. And by the way, what's so crazy is that's exactly how I started. I operated a fog machine, I played music, I did all those kinds of things. So anyways, continue.
Yeah, I did so much. Wow. Funny story though, we were in New Jersey. We had a rental car that didn't have automatic headlights on, and 2 nights in a row I was pulled over by a cop with actors in the car with me because I didn't have the headlights on. So, fun story.
I hope nobody from our insurance company listens to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, what did you think of your experience being a PA?
Personally, I don't think it's for me. I love working on set, but I think I prefer it on documentaries more than on sort of like the chaotic feature film sort of thing with like a huge crew, lots going on, lots of effects. It's just a totally different experience for me.
Yeah,
And also long hours. Really long hours. Really
Very
crazy.
long hours.
20-hour days. Crazy.
did seeing the movie being the first narrative film that you have been this involved on set, did seeing the movie make you want to do it again? Did you get any like nostalgia for the experience, or any like, okay, it was actually worth all this hard work?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, it felt like it's not like I did anything crazy with like the movie at all, but like being a part of something I think was really fun. I met a lot of really cool people that I'm still in contact with today, and I feel like it's super rewarding once it's fully out to be like, oh, I was there. It's like fun. So maybe not for 2 months in Paulsboro, New Jersey, but like somewhere else.
Paulsboro, I must say, so Paulsboro is great. We've made 2 movies there. The people there are awesome. We found a really good location that we shoot, and a studio that we shoot there where they take really good care of us. And it's this kind of awesome old movie palace that's been converted into a soundstage. It's really great, and the city's really cool. However, we were shooting at like the hottest time of summer, and it was storming all the time, and it was super humid, and we were always taking breaks for
asphalt was
lightning.
like soft. It was crazy conditions weather-wise.
It was I've shot there in spring and winter, and that was much more pleasant than shooting there in the middle of summer.
Yeah. Well, okay, so we had to do a reshoot because of the actors strike, and I didn't go back to the reshoot, so I want to like hear how that went.
It was interesting. So I wasn't there the day. So this movie was we started shooting. There was an actor strike last summer, and we started shooting knowing there might be an actor strike. We might have to stop. Or no one knew what the rules were going to be. If movies that were already in production would get to finish, if they wouldn't, and ultimately the actors did strike when we had a week left of shooting, and we did have to stop, and it was pretty heartbreaking because we didn't know if we were going to be able to go back and finish the movie, and also to be so close, to be 5 days, like getting to make a movie, and especially for Brandon, the director, this is his first feature film as a director. You face so many obstacles to make a movie, especially your first movie, and to get there and to get so close to finishing, it's heartbreaking for the whole crew, but especially people who've been in it for so long. And I had to be out of town the day that the strike took place, but Kaya was there. So why don't you first set the mood for what it was like on set on the day that the strike got called, and we knew that was it for the time being.
All I can really remember is everyone scrambling to get as much done as possible. Like, we worked so many hours that day, and then like when it happened, there was so much emotion going on. Everyone was crying, everyone was hugging and like freaking out and booking flights back home and just like figuring out the next steps for everything. And then the following days I stayed to like take back rental cars to help like clean up the studio, and it was just like kind of really sad.
It was really sad. I do have to say, like, major shout out to Hulu for their support on this, because I think we as producers were really nervous that, I mean, to set up a movie and go to a place and build the sets, it costs a ton of money, and we weren't sure that we were going to be able to do that again. If the movie was on strike for too long, that we would be able to rebuild the sets, that we would be able to get the whole team assembled again, fly everybody back to New Jersey. And Hulu, as soon as the strike happened, was like super supportive. Like, don't worry, we will give you the resources to go back and do what you need to do. We love this movie. We love what you've been shooting. We want you to finish it. And that level of support's incredible. But we didn't think the strike was going to last as long as it did. So it kind of reminded me of early days of COVID, where everybody was saying, oh, if we stay inside for 3 or 4 days, everything's going to be okay. It'll go back to normal. And that 3 or 4 days becomes 3 or 4 weeks. That 3 or 4 weeks becomes 3 or 4 months. And so I think we ended in like early July, no, mid-July. We had to, the actor strike started in mid or late July. And we didn't pick the movie back up until December of that year. So it was 5 months that we were down, and when we went back for the pickups, I think conversely to that funeral atmosphere that you described on set when the strike started, it was just a celebration. We showed back up, and everybody was so excited to come finish this movie. Everybody was so energized. It actually weirdly benefited the movie because we'd edited everything except for what hadn't been shot yet. So there were things that we went back and reshot because we weren't happy with, or things that we just thought were different, or things that even Carl and Brandon wrote that we then picked up and changed the way we shot things. So interestingly enough, I've heard there's somebody told me that the Duplass brothers, when they make movies, they always shoot the opening scene of the movie last, because your opening scene is so important and you don't know exactly what's going to happen. There's this thing in film where there's the movie you write, the movie you shoot, and the movie you edit, because things change throughout. And so those guys know that so well that they always shoot their opening scene last, because you don't know what the dynamic of the actors are going to be like and what surprises come, and you want your opening scene to be different. Well, this is sort of an opportunity to do that, because we could now say, okay, with so much of the movie shot and edited, what are the perfect moments that we need to make this thing great? And we were able to go in and get those moments. And it was always like, movies are always, there's never enough time. There's never enough money. And even when you get more money and more time, there's still not enough time. There's still not enough money, because everybody wants to make it the best it possibly can be. And so it was fun and intense. And we added a second unit as well to go pick up some different shots that like either didn't have key cast or just were specialty shots. And so the energy of having those two units functioning and shooting at the same time was just really exhilarating and a lot of fun. And I think the end result of the movie, I'm really happy with it. I think it's like as an audience member, I've never seen anything exactly like this before. I don't think anything exactly like it exists. I think there's things that you could point to within Brandon and Carl and Powell, the DP's references that do exist, but there's nothing exactly like it. I think it is a horror movie. It involves this. Wow, someone's never heard of Do
Sorry.
Not Disturb mode.
Popular.
It's a horror movie. It has all these puppets that feel very much like they're straight out of like Showbiz Pizza or Chuck E. Cheese, just depending on what your era is. It also Brandon's references were like 90s movies like Juice and Boys in the Hood and different things, different movies that you wouldn't necessarily associate with horror. So it has that look and that sort of like grounded reality, and then this hyper surreal fantasy layer on top of it within the puppetry and the demon world and Mr. Crockett's huge performance itself. So I think there's a lot. It's a lot of pieces that you've never really seen amalgamated into this one extremely original whole before.
Yeah.
And that's not me as a person who worked on the movie. That's me as just an audience member saying, like, that's why I wanted to make it in the first place, because I saw those things, and then the way it was executed, it was just really cool.
I think for me it was really interesting because I read the script before I went to New Jersey, and I really didn't know how things were going to pan out, or like how certain things would be created, and like just having that come to life was really cool to see.
Anything surprise you? Was there anything that was like dramatically different than you thought it was going to be?
Some of the effects, because I didn't see them exactly. I like there was a head that like looked crazy, and I remember everyone on set like taking pictures with it and like this looks really creepy, and then like having that, like the explosion, the effects, all of that, and having one take for everything, I think that is what was really different for me.
So there's a scene in the movie where there's a dad. He's like a heroin addict dad. He locks his kid away in the room, says he has to do adult things, important adult things, while his daughter's in the room watching TV. Mr. Croc, he when the dad comes out of the daughter's room and goes back into his living room that's just trashed, Mr. Crockett's sitting in his lounge chair, and the guy pulls out a gun, points it at Mr. Crockett, being a stranger, and says, "What are you doing here? Get out of here." And Mr. Crockett, after taunting him for a minute, tells him, "Oh, I think your gun's malfunctioning." And the dad goes to pull the trigger, and a bubble comes out of the gun. So then Mr. Crockett takes control of Mr. Crockett has these supernatural powers because he made a deal with the devil, and Mr. Crockett forces the man's hand with the gun up, puts the gun in the man's mouth, and pulls the trigger again, and a bubble starts slowly expanding until it ultimately blows the guy's head up. So that's what Kaya was referencing. And the head itself, we had one take. We really blew up the head. There was gore everywhere. And we had we had a wild effects team, Masters Effects, who came in from Toronto to do this. And they were just unbelievable at doing these practical effects and all the puppets. And yeah, this head they built looked cool on set, but you can't really see, because it's built for this like unique specialty purpose, what it's going to look like once it's edited, and it looks incredible. Anything else that was different?
It's hard for me to tell because there are some scenes that I wasn't exactly like seeing, and also I don't know, weren't you on the second like team when you went back to reshoot? What like sort of stuff were you shooting or reshooting?
So it's a lot of stuff that you see that doesn't have actors in it. So for instance, if you like when a car is driving and you see the exterior of the car, or you see like a lot of the stuff where you see the TV. So you see the Crocket show on the TV, and the camera's moving to like Dutch angles and weird angles, or the VHS tape flap is moving up and down, or there's all the different like funky screens that you see, like the vintage screens from different eras. A lot of that stuff, some green screen puppets, some like weird shots that we would want, like in that house that we referenced where the head blows up, of Crocket through the window with those crazy lights going, and he sort of taunts the woman who's outside, the other mother who's looking for her kid. He taunts her, things like that. So it's basically, if there's a scene that doesn't have two actors in it interacting, we shot a lot of that. It was a lot of what you would consider sort of, I guess, B-roll that doesn't have audio or just straight visuals.
Okay. I think one of my favorite parts was that, like, I obviously got to be with the kids on set and work with them a lot, and it was really fun to actually watch their scenes because they're all really great actors.
Yeah, it's really fun to watching kids act, because they do it so naturally still. But when you see the kids who are talented and can remember their lines and show up and act is really fun. You had an interesting experience. Tell everyone what happened one day before the movie's release while you were driving down Sunset Boulevard in LA.
Okay, so I had to go to West Hollywood for whatever reason. I never go there, and I was stopped at a light, and I was just literally like not doing anything. I knew that the movie was coming out. I knew that there would be posters places, but then I saw it, and I was so excited because I wasn't expecting it, and it was so long, and I like was fumbling to get my phone out to take a video for everyone to see.
Yeah, you get a great video of it. There's digital billboards around LA promoting the movie, and Kai just randomly saw one without knowing where it was going to be or that it was going to exist, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. What else? Any other interesting experiences from set or from watching the movie that you want to share?
I mean, not really. It was just really interesting to have so many like lightning, weather delays, working on a set. Normally, like the times that I've been on set working, it's like pretty controlled situations, but like there was one day where there was a crazy storm, lightning striking so close by that we sat and we played games and we just waited, and then we had to like go over and finish filming everything.
Yeah, I forget exactly what the rules are, but something like if there's lightning within 2 miles of us, we can't shoot for 30 minutes because of all the metal that we use and all the electrical equipment. We don't want to be lightning rods. Question that we ask every time: if you had to be one character from this movie, who would you be?
Ooh. I wouldn't want to be any of them. Maybe a kid. Maybe one of the kids.
The kid who gets kidnapped?
Yeah, because they don't know.
Right, they're under a trance from Mr. Crocket at the time that they're kidnapped. So that probably would be best. Fun. I would be Summer, because that's pretty awesome to literally... People often say, like, I'd be willing to die for you. I'd be willing to go through hell for you. She literally is willing to go through hell for her son to get him back. And I think that's pretty incredible. So, yeah, I would definitely be Summer. Although Crocket seems to be having the most fun.
True. Yeah.
So
I'd probably be Major, for sure.
Yeah, Major is the boy who gets kidnapped.
The main boy.
Yeah, by Crocket, Summer's son. So I think this is a good time, actually, in this episode to throw this to what we're about to do, the interview with Brandon and Carl. And this is a little bit weird because we can't interview them until 2 days from now because the movie's screening at a festival tonight. Brandon's doing tons of press. Carl's doing tons of press. I'm traveling. There's like all these things happening. So we are going to snap forward 2 days in the future. We will be with Brandon and Carl when we come back. Wait, no, you have to do this. This is what they do on YouTube. No, we have to do it on time.
They do something else.
One.
They do like...
Oh, let's clap our hands. 3, 2, 1. All right, I would love to welcome Brandon Espy, the writer-director of Mr. Crocket, and Carl Reid, the writer-producer of Mr. Crocket. You guys are the first guests that we've had on the Solo Moviegoers Club. And we're honored that you guys could be here. You're both friends and collaborators of ours.
Oh, we're so honored. Yeah. It's exciting, man. You know, it's a great journey with you. And yeah, just like, I'm happy to be the first guest. First of many.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So Kai and I actually recorded the first part of this on Thursday before Mr. Crocket came out, but now it's out in the world. It's Saturday. The movie came out yesterday on Friday. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. And to us as well, having all worked on it, you know. It was a team effort for sure.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel for it to be out in the world?
I feel good. You know, it's funny seeing the people's reactions and just like all the camaraderie around it, and yeah, it's just like cool to see something you worked on for so long coming to fruition, and just seeing all the results of it. So it's like fulfilling in a way.
And it's
no,
over.
you guys, it's over.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
That's always a good feeling. And so you guys have been to, I haven't been at any of the festival screenings yet, but you guys have been to Fantastic Fest, Sitges, and Screamfest, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What were those different audience reactions like, and which audience reaction was the best?
I say Screamfest was the best reaction audience. I think by far. I think it was a lot of big laughs, but a lot of cheers, talking to the screen. It was like constantly throughout. I think Fantastic Fest, that was great reaction too. And I think like the biggest turnout because they had like, what was it, Carl? Like 7 theaters?
Yeah,
Like
all simultaneous. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and so it was like a big audience. Sitges it was good. I think you're dealing with in another country, and so certain humor or certain other things may not translate as well. But you get like they love kills out there, so like whenever the kills happen, like big claps, like they were really excited, and it was cool on the second screening we had because they were during the credits they were like synchronized clapping to the Crocket song and to the beat of it, so that was pretty cool. And then also I did have another screening at the Motion Picture Association, which is interesting because it's in DC. You have some like government officials there, some more higher up people, and some people who never watched horror before, and they reacted amazing to it. So it was really cool to see that.
The idea of you being in DC watching this with government officials is hilarious.
I was nervous at first. They're like, I don't watch horror movies. I never watch horror, and we're like right by the White House. I'm like, we'll see how this works. And the MPA, they never screened a horror film at their theater before ever, and so it was a risk they took, but everyone had a great time, and they were like really excited they even have more after that.
Oh, that's awesome. You kicked something off with a wild movie.
Yeah. I didn't warn anybody either, so they were just like... Yeah.
And so I'm kind of interested because you guys co-wrote this movie. Why don't we start with Brandon? What was your inspiration for Mr. Crocket to begin with?
It was my son over his obsession with Blippi, and just me thinking like how scary it is to have your kid sucked into someone else's world where you almost have like no control, because anytime he had it on, he wouldn't listen to me at all. It was like I didn't even have a kid anymore. He was Blippi's kid now. And so I think with the attacking like the vulnerability of the kid, that was a big fear, because I think one of the scariest things for me is losing my kid. Even like when I'm out losing him like in the mall or something, or someone taking him. I think that's a big fear of a lot of parents. And so I thought, what if we played off something like that?
And then Carl, how does it work for you as somebody who comes on and writes this with Brandon? What inspirations did you draw from?
Well, yeah, I mean, luckily Brandon and I worked on the short, so we had a really good working relationship. And then really just taking the foundation of the things that he'd imagined and expanding it into a bigger world, a bigger kind of cinematic platform, and really exploring Crockett's backstory a little bit, and then what was the world that Major was taken to were kind of the big things that I was really intrigued by. And so it was pretty organic. I feel like we had a really similar taste in the children's program we grew up on. So, Pee-wee Herman and Freddy Krueger, and really leaning into the 90s trippy children's program that you don't really see today. We wanted to explore the strange creepiness of those kinds of genres. So it was a lot of fun.
What are some reactions you guys have gotten that have maybe been unexpected, or some of your favorite reactions from screenings so far?
I say, I think Twitter or X, there's a lot of great reactions. You're saying like from the actual in-person screening?
No, either.
Yeah.
Hulu screenings, anything.
I think, I mean, I'm kind of liking a lot of the memes because I think in general a lot of people are like, oh, like they they should have sent Major off anyways with how bad he was acting towards his mama, and so just seeing all that, and I think the camaraderie of like, yeah, like you have this badass kid, and the whole lore of dropping this VHS in this free library, and it's almost like parents who have these badass kids like purposely throwing the VHS in these libraries so they can send their kids away. I think it's almost like joking about that. And I think that's the fun about the film too, because if you go into it like for a fun watch, you're gonna have a great time. And yeah, I'm just loving all the reactions, and I kind of knew I was gonna get those types of reactions, and so it's cool just seeing that come full circle.
Yeah, the fan art's been cool. I think it's just the way that even before the movies launched, people were excited. I mean, I've done other horror films, in this kind of Hulu slate, and this feels special because people keep talking about Crocket as iconic. And I feel like there's a real need and hunger for, especially in the Black community, a horror villain that is charismatic and fun and over the top. And it feels like we delivered, and all the reactions I've seen so far have been really positive, especially with Elvis's performance.
Yeah, the movie is everywhere. So Jesse, one of the other producers of this movie, he and I were shooting something together this week, and one of the other people we were shooting with was telling us about the movie, not even knowing that we had worked on it. I've had people texting me saying that they were seeing it everywhere, that it was the #1 recommended movie for them on Hulu. It seems like the movie's really hitting at the right time, and I think the fact that you guys did create something that there is nothing else like it, I think it's ever been created, I think is really resonating with people and is really getting attention for all the right reasons. And so this is kind of interesting. So this is the first movie that Kaya has worked on in this capacity that has come out in the world. So it's, Kaya, what's it like for you? Now, last time you and I had talked, people hadn't seen the movie other than a couple of festival screens. What's it like for you to have this movie that you worked on for so long and you were on set for now be out in the world?
Yeah, it's crazy because I left home for like 2 months and no one really knew what I was doing or where I went, but now I get to like share it with people that I got to work on this, and it's been really cool. A lot of people that I'm friends with have seen it and they've really enjoyed it, so I don't know, it's just exciting for me.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
It's cool too that it's like you guys really did a great job with it. That's me saying this, like I hadn't watched it in a while. Obviously I watched the final cut, but I hadn't seen the final version with the full color, with the full sound effects, with the full visual effects, with everything on it until earlier this week. And it had been a while. Like this movie's been finished for quite a while. So having some distance from it, I was able to sit back and just watch it as a moviegoer. And I had a blast. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, it was designed to be fun and over the top and irreverent and self-aware. I mean, I think we wanted to make a movie that we knew would please audiences as well as be an homage to the stuff we kind of love from the horror genre. So it's been really nice that people get the tone, because it's a weird tone, but people seem to dig it, so that's cool.
It's its own tone. I think that's why they get it. It's like you're once you're in it, you're in it. If you make it through that opening scene, you're going to dig the rest of the movie.
Exactly.
So part of what we're doing here, this is the first movie that we've watched on our computers. Normally for this podcast, we go to a theater alone and watch a movie. What do you guys think about going to theaters alone and watching movies? Is this something that either of you or both of you do?
Yeah, I think especially when I was in college and I didn't want to get into trouble, I'm like, let me take myself to the movies by myself, nobody else. Let me not go out and party. And I think with that, it kind of gave me moments to really appreciate cinema and film, and like, I guess it's almost like therapeutic for me in a way, because you're able to go through a journey of a character uninterrupted, and I don't know, just like you go through this experience for yourself. So afterwards, when you come out and you're home and you're just like you get to kind of think on things, whether it was great, make it happy, sad, and then it's like almost that's your personal experience. So, yeah.
Carl, what about you?
Me too. I mean, movies are my church, I suppose. So, for me, it's a sacred space that if you go alone, you can really feel the kind of connection with strangers that, you're all going through this one story, connecting with these characters, and wherever you're from, whatever walk of life you're a part of, you get to have this experience with other human beings that, you don't know from Adam. So I think that's a really beautiful thing that this form of art can connect people who have no connection. And it's very rare and special in the way that it does that, in the way that it keeps storytelling alive, I think, for our culture. So I hope movies last forever. I know, that's kind of sacrilegious to say as someone who makes streaming movies, but, being in theaters is still, to me, the best experience you can get.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think I'm a proponent of theatrical movies and a proponent of streaming. Like I think they both have their place in the movie watching universe. I think there's like the fact that this movie is streaming, is available on Hulu, that it hits everybody's platform all at once. Inevitably, more people will see the movie, right?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. They're like, I think with the way that social media works today too, there's like, you can't really escape it because people are going to talk heads and show up on the explore pages, and certain conversations. People just love talking, I think.
Yeah, and I think Carl, obviously, you're a big part of Huluween, the entire Huluween slate. But I feel like it's become such an annual thing that people look forward to, and that movie-going audiences look forward to. I know there's a huge community of people that watch every Huluween movie and really look forward to that every October. So I guess, what does it feel like to be a part of that? That's part of this annual tradition that's really meaningful to people.
I mean, it's great. I get excited, even though I make these things like when Halloween comes around and when October comes around on the platform. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see the stuff I haven't seen or the stuff I've worked on that I haven't watched in a while. I mean, I love that people get excited to the point that, they're anticipating it and bringing more people into the fold, and especially younger people coming of age, like, hitting 17, hitting 18. These are the movies they'll grow up on and they'll remember. And you're right. I mean, you can't beat the convenience of a streaming platform. You can't beat the online discourse. I mean, that's fantastic. But I love that we're just creating new traditions for a whole new generation of moviegoers. I think that's awesome to be a part of.
Yeah, for sure. And Kaya had a really interesting experience that she and I already talked about, which is she was driving down Sunset Boulevard. I actually sent you guys the photo that she sent me, and
Yeah.
she saw one of the Crocket billboards. And what's that like?
It was so weird because I was like, wait, why do I know this? I saw Aiden's face and I'm like, wait, what? And it just like totally took me out.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And Brandon, you sent a really cool video of you with your son who inspired the movie, seeing Mr. Crocket 40 feet tall on the side of the Pendry. What was that like for you and for him? What was that moment like?
It was fun. I think they were excited, number one, to be up past the bedtime. And so they were just like going crazy. It was almost a little scary because I thought they would run out to the street. But I think it was fun because, with him, he is aware of it, but may not be, fully aware as it may have been for me. But I think he knows it's like pretty cool. And for him, he's starting to become a lot more of like a writer and draws monsters and stuff too, and creates stories at school, like his teachers tell me. So I think it's more so like it may have like subconsciously affected him a lot more than he's like willing to admit right now. Because I think in general he's still scared of Crocket. So he's kind of like, I don't want to see Crocket, But it was a great moment. It's something I'll always remember.
And was that something growing up in LA? Did you dream of having your movies on billboards in LA?
I never even thought I would make movies growing up. I loved watching movies, loved watching movies with my dad and my family. I was always a huge fan of them, but I never thought of the possibility of making them. Because I grew up like in Inland Empire, like right outside of LA, and there wasn't really people who made movies around me. And so I wasn't really around like all the Hollywood shuffle. I just thought, I'll grow up, get like you know, a job outside the industry, and that's about it. So once I found out that there's a possibility, and I didn't even find really this out until after college, um, that filmmaking was something that could be real and possible. And I started trying it, and then I'm like, oh wow, this could potentially happen, but never thought like when it was going to happen or how it was going to happen. But I'm glad it happened this way.
And Carl, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, for the billboard, it's my giant hand reaching out and almost grabbing cars. So that is extremely surreal. It's really cool. I feel like I've done 8 of these now, or 7 are released. And I do feel like the marketing and the buzz and the excitement around Crocket is very special. It really does feel like something that Hulu has supported in an extra special way, but also that the fan community is embracing, faster and stronger than anything I've ever done. So I'm just thrilled.
And Carl, what's been the best part of the release of this movie, or I guess the best part of the whole process of making this movie for you so far?
It's the way that the movie affects people. I mean, like you said, it's a weird thing where people don't know that I have anything to do with this movie, but I hear opinions about the movie because people have like they watched it at midnight. As soon as it came out, people were ready to do it. And people are telling me their family members watched it. They're telling me that their friends are sharing about it, and it's kind of taken on. We're one day in, but it's already capturing people's attention, and the talk for sequels is everywhere. So I feel like we set out to make something that made an impact and that was unique, and we succeeded.
Cool. And Brandon, what's been the best part of the process for you?
I think just growing as a filmmaker, and I think in a way it's almost like you're getting to participate in live focus groups, and reactions of seeing what works and doesn't work for people, and knowing kind of like taking that in and applying that for future stuff. Because I'm a big advocate of testing and receiving results. And so I was really looking forward to a lot of that. I loved going to the festivals too and meeting other people. Like when I was in Sitges, I got to meet Mick Garris and Mike Flanagan and his wife Kate. And it was a cool experience, just like meeting people that you may have been like just listening to their podcast or seeing their work so much, but never thinking that you would ever be so close to them. And I think just meeting different individuals throughout that kind of like give you that inspiration to keep going, like telling you like you do have something here, and I can see you keep going and creating more impact within this industry. So it's almost gives you that validation, and behind that, it gives you like that strong motivation to keep going.
And Brandon, what's the most consistent feedback, if any, that you've been getting on the movie? Like, is there one thing that people tend to comment on?
The cold open, they tend to comment on a lot. They're like, wow, first like 7 minutes, like we really get into it. I say like kind of like just building this crazy, demented world. The performance of Crocket, the practical effects, and the gore. Like those are all things that people have like across the board commented on and loved in general. And I'm glad because we worked with such a great team between Masters Effects, who created the monsters, and Alex, who concepted them, Alex Party. I think, and like even like Michelle Patterson just building the world and the set. I think all these like little elements that really make the movie what it is, down to even like little nostalgia pieces and the wardrobe by Naomi. Like I think seeing people appreciate all these little parts really means a lot to me.
Yeah, and Carl, what about you? Anything different than that?
I mean, I agree. Elvis's performance, obviously, I think is the thing that people immediately talk about, which is really nice. But I think the creativity of some of the kills, people really seem to enjoy. So I think if we get a chance to do another one, we've heard the mandate of keep the weird and wacky Crocket kills going. It's funny because like the goal was to make one of these horror monsters that has a sympathetic kind of backstory, or at least a point of view. Whether you agree with him or not, with some of these methods he takes on is, up for debate. But people seem to enjoy, like genuinely enjoy, when a bad parent gets taken out by Crocket. So seeing that was surprising, the amount that people enjoyed it. So I think if we get a chance, we'll continue that.
Kai, have you had anyone say anything different than that? How your friends or people that you've sent it to reacted?
A lot of it is about like how diverse the death scenes are. Like the bubble gun, for example. Like personally, I wouldn't have even thought about that either. So I think that was the most fun part for the people that I know that watched it.
And do you have any questions for Brandon and Carl other than the things I've asked?
Yeah, I want to know, since you guys wrote like the short story and had that filmed, were there any like sort of non-negotiables with that you wanted to include like in the final movie?
I think just exploring Crockett's world, because like in the short we don't really get much of it. Like we get that the kid gets taken into it, and we have just like a screen with kind of like abstract stuff behind Crocket. I think going into it, we really wanted to dedicate ourselves to building out that world within Crocket's world and really going after it and not making it something basic where it's just him on a set, but just giving him all these sidekicks, these characters, so that we could really play up different things within his world. So.
And yeah, I think from the short, we knew what I really loved about Brandon's original script in the short was it's a movie about parenting. It's a real frustration that real parents have when you just feel like you have no control over what's going on in your household because you've made this creature, this little child that is going to do whatever it wants while it figures out how to be a human being. And sometimes that's going to be tough and you're not going to have the answers and everyone's going to tell you what to do, but you're going to figure it out and you're going to, listen to yourself ultimately in order to have a real relationship with your child. So that was, to me, the underlying foundation of making a movie that actually like had a point and had an arc and had emotion to it. So that was non-negotiable for me. And the other thing was the scene where Crocket comes out of the TV. That was so well executed in the short and so much fun to do in the short. And we knew we were going to have to do a bigger, better version in the feature eventually.
I love that Kai barely speaks this whole time, then comes in with the absolute best question yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. My favorite moment in the movie, I don't know if I ever told you guys this, but it's the Benny the Bison scene. Seeing Crocket like that and seeing that, like, I think that's the moment where you realize just how dangerous this guy really is. And sort of how twisted he really is. And also, part of it for me too is there was an improv element to that scene that no audience will ever know. But like when Crocket yells at the guy off screen for dropping the backdrop, that was just something you guys thought of on the fly and didn't even tell Elvis that it was going to happen, right?
Yeah, and it was and just like thank you to Elvis in general because he's such a great actor and great at improv, and he really took advantage of that moment and went in on it. So
it was scary on set when he was doing
that.
Yeah, you non-string holding motherfucker is my favorite line in the entire movie, and I have nothing to do with writing it. So
yeah, it's funny when that happens. But I mean, I think it's funny too because you can also kind of take ownership even of those improv lines because you created the world in which someone could get lost in the performance enough to improv something like that. So it really is that synthesis, and I think that's what's so cool about making films is it's not just one person; it's what everybody brings to it, what ultimately ends up on screen. And that moment's a great example of how that happens. So one thing that we have been doing on this podcast is reading some reviews from Rotten Tomatoes and from Letterboxd. Would you guys want to run through? We'll read a couple good ones and a couple bad ones, and I want to see your reactions.
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna go to Rotten Tomatoes first. First of all, it's at 64% right now, which is really good for a movie like this.
Oh,
like,
cool.
I always expect whenever you're making a horror movie, particularly a horror movie that's pretty out there, that like these movies just aren't for everybody.
Yeah.
And you're going to get savaged by a couple people, but it seems like people are getting it. So we've got Katie Ray from IGN Movies says the practical effects and grotesque puppet design are appealing. Inconsistent performances and contradictory characterizations make it difficult to invest in the real world stakes. I don't know. Inconsistent performances, like, so you're critiquing the fact that the actors have range?
Apparently. I mean, it, like you said, it's a bold, out there kind of wacky movie in many respects, and you have to go on the journey and buy into our tone. And if you don't get the tone, and if you're not just down to have fun with it, then it's just not going to be for you. Which is, like you said, the cold open, you're either on or you're not. So we did that by design.
And then this is what's so funny about reviews of movies. And then the next person is a Digital Mafia Talkie says, if you want to shoot down all my criticisms about Mr. Crocket by pointing at Elvis Nolasco's diabolical performance, I'll agree with you because it's truly one of the best performances of the year. And I agree, but it's just funny to me that one person can see a performance and think one thing and another person can see the exact same performance and have a completely different take on it.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have to give you guys a shout out. New York Times said it was one of the best scripts of the year, which is incredible.
Yeah. When they told me that they were going to review it, I was like, okay, let's see what happens. But I was surprised. I was like, wow, oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was glowing. Yeah, they really they got what we're trying to do, and you and the subtext, because there is some interesting stuff about fathers and generational trauma and stuff that is in there, but other people are just going to be like, there's a talking chair, not for me.
Yeah.
The talking chair is something that people talk about, and that was something Carl fought for. There was a moment where the talking chair we weren't sure was going to make the final round of budget cuts, and it was
non-negotiable.
For me, at least, yeah. No, that was, and the cold open. There was a lot of controversy about whether or not to go that hard and reveal so much about Crocket, and to have such a crazy beginning, and whether it would impact the way that we wanted to. But I'm glad that people eventually kind of came around and said, all right, let's do it and let's see what happens. So I'm pretty proud of those sequences.
Yeah. As you guys know, obviously, like, I didn't think we should show so much in the cold open, and after watching the movie and seeing people's reactions to it, I was wrong about that. But it's awesome. It starts the movie off with a bang and is a ton of fun.
I think it almost sets the tone of the film too, in a way, because you kind of see I'm about to get into something ridiculous. So, and
also because it kind of restarts, right? It's like up until we catch back up to that point, you see that moment, and then you go into a very different movie, and then we get back into it. So it's not like you're going straight from the cold open to the credits back to something that feels even anything remotely like the cold open. It feels kind of like an episode. But so Letterboxd, the top review says it's like the VHS version of Freddy Krueger. Everything was going well until the second act when the adults intervened. Became such an unbearable movie. Literally, the kids had to be the protagonists of this, but at least Freddy Krueger here actually kills them.
The kids are the protagonists? Is that what they said in Act 2?
Yeah, I kind of don't get it.
I don't remember that, yeah. But, maybe they watched a different movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
We've got Think a Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared video meets Sesame Street meets Mr. Rogers. Elvis Nolasco delivers an incredibly creepy and believable performance of a kidnapping, cheery, insane, supernatural TV host. Whoa, like, I was actually scared of him myself. My only real complaint is that the script didn't feel fully fleshed out. Could have been a bit longer to do so. I do respect it for being unique. The gore, weird humor, and cool creature designs really made up for it. I love that someone is saying that the movie could have been longer. I don't know if I've ever seen that in a review before. Like, that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, it means they want more. And look, if we have more of a budget next time, we'll go deeper and do more crazy stuff and make it longer. But, I think for when you make a movie, people don't realize there are certain limitations that you're kind of up against. And I think we stretched our budget as much as humanly possible, thanks to the amazing producing you guys did in Jersey, and letting us really kind of knock it out throughout the entire town and spend every dollar on the screen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the movie feels big. The world feels real. Are there any reviews that you guys have read that you particularly love or hate?
Let's see. I mean, some reviews are like, "This is awful, just awful, terrible, like horrible movie." Those ones I find funny. I guess I think the review that I hate the most was that Trace Thurman one from Bloody Disgusting. More so because he sounds like a hater more than anything. Like, I appreciate all critiques, but you use certain verbs and adjectives that kind of sound like it's fighting words. I'm like, I don't think Trace wants to see me in person. That's all I'm gonna say. And funny too, because the thing is too, you get behind these and I think I sent you guys this, like a screenshot of the people who had the bad reviews, and they all look like they were part of like the same party in general. And so it's interesting to see. Like, I can almost guess what the person looks like when they have a certain type of review. So
yeah, people are like sectarian and very, I don't know, there's like a kind of sheep mentality in terms of, oh, I like this type of movie, I'm this type of person, I can't like that type of movie. It almost says more about them and who they want to be perceived as than what they actually think about the movie.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
But, truthfully, what I've learned in movie making is, like, it's a good thing that everybody doesn't like your movie. Because if you're making something that's too vanilla and too generic and everybody just praises it up and down, then you're not advancing anything. You're not pushing the envelope. You're not doing anything for the genre that's new and challenging and unique. So I'm very glad when opinions get split, because it means that you took a good swing, and the people who get it will get it. And in time, there'll be a ripple effect about, if you do something bold enough, people will understand the impact. But for reviews, I mean, the times when that's a huge feather in our caps. I think that's awesome. And I think anything that's negative that I've seen, for the most part, is very hardcore horror fans who are almost offended by the fact that we did an homage to Freddy Krueger. There are people who get it and appreciate that we did something new with him and did our own spin on it. But there are people who are like, Freddy 5 is my favorite movie of all time. Like, you guys think you're as good as that. Fuck you guys. So, like, we're not going to ever help those people. They're never going to enjoy the movie. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Sure. So what's next for you guys?
I guess we'll see. Just trying to create some other crazy ideas, and I think just telling it more from like the Black perspective. I think just creating more of a catalog from this perspective of movies that we haven't seen from this culture before, ones that maybe they aren't comfortable with telling, and just keeping on pushing the limits. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, it's they're actually a Black filmmaker that Josh and I are friends with sent us a text, and he's like, this is like 2 weeks ago when the trailer came out. He's like, guys, my brother just sent me the Mr. Crocket trailer, and then I saw that you guys worked on it, and I just want you guys to know that I'm paraphrasing what he said. He's like, Black filmmakers typically don't get to make weird movies, and this looks like a weird movie, and I think you guys need to know what this is going to mean to this culture. And so what do you guys think about that statement?
I think it means a lot because for me, I'm a huge fan of '90s black cinema, from Jews, Paid in Full, Above the Rim, Men's Society. Um, Always like set off in a lot of those films. I always wanted to see horror and supernatural elements injected within those narratives. And I felt like a lot of the cultures they got to have fun with horror and fantasy throughout that time where you didn't really see that from the black perspective. And I think there is probably a lot of black filmmakers who want to do that, but they may be scared to because they feel like they have to fit into a certain box and when telling certain narratives for their audience. And so I'm hoping this one is able to let people know that, hey, we can tell these stories to where we can take these certain risks and it will work. It'll get people talking. And so maybe let's continue to do that, because I think there's a lot of people out there who want to do it, but they may just be scared to, or they don't know how to do it. They don't know how it's going to be received. So hopefully they use this as kind of like a testing ground to see what's possible.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, to hear that is actually extremely rewarding, because if we can do anything to inspire, young black filmmakers out there to take risks or to join the industry or to tell stories that they may have thought weren't possible, then we've done our job. I mean, you really can't do any better than that when it comes to, contributing to, especially the culture. I mean, that's phenomenal to hear.
Cool. Kai, you have any other questions? Comments? Concerns? Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being our first guest. I hope that, first of all, in the next year I find myself on set with both of you making another movie at some point. Yeah. And I hope we're doing another one of these and you guys are guests again on a movie that we've made together.
Amazing. I love that.
Absolutely. No, can't wait. And thank you both for making the movie possible and for having us.
Yep. Yeah. No, it means a lot, guys.